Hey guys, I hope y'all are having a wonderful day today. So we're going to be doing a minimal makeup tutorial for beginners. So for those of you who are pretty new to makeup and you're thinking maybe minimal makeup is going to be your thing, maybe you don't want to use a whole lot of products, you don't want to do like a full-blown makeup routine, or maybe you just want to start out small and get your feet wet and get more comfortable with something simple before you move on to a full-blown makeup routine, then you're probably going to like this one for today. So we're only going to be using 6 products. Some of you will be able to do this routine using only 5 of those products, and I am going to tell you what I'm using as we're going through, but we're going to be focusing more so on the types of products to use, and we're going to be focusing on technique. So we're going to be talking about just how to like even some things out and how to focus on certain areas of the face so that we look more polished and we look more cohesive without doing like all the steps in a full-blown makeup routine. So this is the look that we're doing today, so I hope that you like it. So let's jump right into it so I can show y'all how to do this minimal makeup look. Okay, so let's start with our brows first. So this step, some of y'all might feel like y'all can skip it. If you think that your brows are pretty much filled into your liking, especially for a minimal makeup look, then you don't even have to touch them. But for me, even on minimal makeup days, I want to fill my brows in because I feel like they're pretty sparse. So I'm going to be using a brow powder for today. So a lot of people do like using brow pencils. So if this is like one of your first time doing your brows, I would say just use whatever product you think is going to be easier for you. But I do think powders are more beginner friendly, but that's just my personal opinion. So I'm just going to take my powder and just fill in the sparse areas of my brows, and I do want them to look pretty nice, but I'm not going to be concentrating on making them look like quite as precise as I would for like a full makeup look. But even when I'm doing like a full, like more glam look, I guess you can say, I still like for my brows to be just a little almost like messy. I don't like for them to be like too perfect because I think it makes them look more natural when they don't look like super precise and super perfect. But all I'm doing is just filling in the sparse areas, which for me, I think that's like all of my brows, but I do spend some time on my tail because I really don't have one. So even if you don't think you need to fill the brows in, you still want to take a spoolie and just brush through your brows and make sure that the hairs look nice and groomed, because your brows are basically going to like frame your face. So even for a minimal makeup day, you want to just take some time to make sure that your brows look nice and neat. Okay, so our brows are all done, so let's move on to the face, and this is the most important step in a minimal makeup routine because we're going to be focusing on complexion. So we're going to be working on evening out the skin tone by putting some product in certain areas of the face instead of putting it all over the face. So for this step, you definitely want to use a medium or full coverage concealer, and if you can, get one that matches your skin tone exactly. If you can't find one that's an exact match to your skin tone, get one that's really close to the point where when you blend it out, it's not going to be so noticeable that it's not an exact match. And then sometimes you may have to mix 2 colors together. That's actually what I'm going to be doing today because I don't have an exact match in any of the concealers that I own. A lot of us have concealers that are brighter than our skin tone because we use it to brighten up in certain areas. So I'm going to be mixing up 2 shades from my Anastasia concealer because the 2 of these together is really like an exact match to my skin tone. So I'm going to be putting the concealer on one side of the face so that you can see the difference between the 2. But all I'm really doing is putting the concealer only in the areas where I need to even out the skin tone. So for a lot of us, that's the under eye area. A lot of us have darkness right here that we want to cover up. And then I also have some darkness on my cheek area and kind of like on the chin and on the side of the mouth. So I'm going to start off with the darker of the 2 shades, and you want to be as minimal as possible here, but you also want to really target those areas that you need to lighten up. So I'm just going to start off with the darker of the 2 shades, and I'm only putting a little bit of the product in the areas that I think that I need it. And I am going to end up putting a good amount on the cheek area because I do have lots of areas where I want to like cancel out some of the darkness. And then I'm going to go in with the lighter shade and just plop some of that kind of like right on top of the darker shade. So of course, if you don't have to mix 2 colors together, this step will be a little bit easier. It's just that, like I said, I don't really have a concealer where I have one that's an exact match. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this amount of concealer. So you can always go back and add in more if you think that you need to, but you definitely want to start off small and then build your way up if you think you need more coverage. You don't want to mess around and put on too much product and then you just have way more product on your face than you need. So I'm going to start off with this amount and then I'm going to be blending out with my finger for today. Yes, you can use a brush or a sponge, but a finger will give you more of like a natural and more of like a skin-like finish, and it'll help you target the areas where you want to blend out, because you do want to try to keep the concealer exactly where you have it instead of spreading it all around your face, because the whole idea here is to only put the concealer in the areas where you're trying to cancel out some darkness and cover some things out, as opposed to having it blended all over your face. So I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to start with the under eye area, and I'm just going to pat like right over the area where I have the concealer. And yes, it may move around a little bit, that's fine. But for the most part, we're trying to keep the concealer nice and concentrated right where we put it. Okay, I may go back to the under eye and do a little bit more, but for now I'm going to move on to the cheek area. So I'm just doing the same thing for each place where I've put the concealer. And of course, if you don't have as much stuff to cover up as I do, then you're obviously not going to have as much blending to do as me. But, you know, just put the concealer in any area where you think you need it, but only put it in the areas where you need it. And then this way, you don't have to put product all over the face. Okay, so before I move on to the other side, I just wanted to show you all the difference between this side that has pretty much an evened out skin tone, because I've covered up a lot of the areas with the darkness, as opposed to over here where I still have a lot of stuff that needs to be covered up. So remember, we're going for a minimal look today. We're not going for anything flawless or full coverage. So over here, you do still see some of the imperfections, especially on the cheek area and even on the under eye area, but we're just trying to even out the skin tone here because we want something that's nice and minimal. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so this is what we're looking like so far after evening things out. And remember, on both sides of the face, you can still see a good amount of my imperfections, but we're not going for a flawless look today. We just want things to look a lot more cohesive. So I'm also going to take a little bit of my concealer and I'm going to put some on, I think I'm just going to put some on my finger, and then I'm going to also blend it out on the eyelids because that area of the face is a little dark too. So I'm just going to quickly blend this out all over the lid area just to brighten that area up as well. Now, after you've evened everything out, if you feel like you need a little bit more coverage in any of the areas, you can certainly go back and do that. So we're not really trying to like do highlight and contour and all of that today, but for me, I do always feel like even on a minimal makeup day, I just need a little bit more coverage on my under eye area because I do have a good amount of darkness there. So I am going to put just a little bit more concealer on the under eye area. And then I'm just going to do the same thing I did the first time around, and I'm just going to blend this out with my finger, and I'm still trying to keep it nice and concentrated just on the areas where I placed that concealer. So this is another step that maybe you feel like you don't need to do. You may not need a second layer of concealer, but like I said, for me, even on a minimal makeup day, I just feel like I need a little bit more coverage right on this under eye area. So this is what we're looking like so far. So we're going to move on to setting the face. And this is another step that's going to further help us make everything look cohesive. I'm not going to set the whole face just yet. I'm just going to focus on the under eye. So if you didn't go back and put on a second layer of concealer on your under eye, that first layer will have been sitting for a little bit. So before you set it, you just want to take your finger one more time and just do one more pat over the under eye concealer. And you're just making sure that the concealer that you put on a few minutes ago is nice and smooth before you go ahead and set it in place. So make sure you do that, and then we're going to move on to setting powder. So I would definitely go for a powder that has more of like a natural finish as opposed to like a mattifying finish, because natural finishes, they're just going to look a lot more natural and skin-like on the face. You can certainly use a mattifying powder if you want, but because I have drier under eyes, I'm definitely going to go for more of a natural finish. So my favorite setting powder for right now is the Kosas Cloud Set Powder. Oh, this thing will not open this morning. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is my Kosas powder. So y'all hear me say all the time how I love pressed powders over loose powders. I think pressed powders just lay a lot nicer on the skin, especially if you're setting areas that have like any fine lines or wrinkles. So I'm going to be using this today, and I'm just going to take my brush. I'm just patting it into the powder, and I'm tapping off the excess. You always want to make sure that you're tapping off the excess so that you're not putting on too much powder on the face. And then I'm just patting the powder directly on the under eye just to set that concealer in place. So we definitely want to set this so that our concealer stays in place during the day. Now we're gonna go back to this powder in a minute, but first we're gonna put on some blush. So I'm gonna do my blush first before I set the rest of my face, because I'm gonna be using a cream blush. I think cream and liquid blushes, they really complement a minimal makeup look because they look a lot more skin-like and a lot more natural. Yes, you can use a powder blush if you like, but I think cream and liquid blushes are just better for this type of look. So for today, I'm gonna be using the Tower 28 cream blush. This one is in the shade Golden Hour. And I like blushes for minimal makeup looks because they just kind of like help wake up the whole face and just add like a natural flush of color to your face, and they will add a little dimension too. So I like placing my blush kind of like right behind the apples of my cheek, and I drag it up a little bit just to give my face that whole like lifted effect. So I'm gonna start kind of like here and just pat on the cheek area, and like I said, I'm dragging it up a little bit. And you can make your blush as pigmented as you want. I'm not going to go crazy on the blush today because again, we're going for that minimal look, but I do want the blush to be noticeable. And then I'm just going to keep blending it in until I feel like there's like no harsh lines around the blush. If you feel like you put on too much blush, I'll show you in a second how you can tone that down, because I feel like over here it might be just a little bit more pigmented than I wanted it to be, but we'll tone it down in just a second. And now that we have the blush on, now we can go back and set everything in place. So we're picking up our Kosas powder again, and I'm just using a different brush. So this one just has a bigger brush head and it's a lot more dense. It's just going to cover more surface, but I'm pretty much applying the powder, Lord have mercy, I'm applying the powder the same way. So I'm tapping it into the powder, and then I'm tapping off the excess. Again, make sure you tap off all of that excess powder so you're not packing it onto your face. And then I'm just going to start by pressing this powder. I'm not really setting the blush in the under eye area. The under eye area is already set. I'm going to go back and set this blush last, just because I don't want to pick up any of that color and like spread it around. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't put any concealer on my forehead because I just don't need it up there. So again, you're putting your concealer just in the areas where you need it. But even though I didn't put concealer up here, I am still putting powder up here because that will just help the whole look be more cohesive so that my forehead is not so shiny during the day. And then after I have everything set, then I'm going to go back and set my blush. So this will tone the blush down if you feel like you put on too much. So you can just pat your powder directly over the blush and it'll help tone it down if you think you need to do that. Okay, so we just have 2 more steps and then we're all done. So for those of you who think that minimal makeup is probably going to be your thing, you have to get this mascara and keep it in your collection. This is the Merit Beauty Clean Lash Lengthening Mascara. This is one of my favorite mascaras ever, and I think it's the perfect mascara for a minimal makeup look. So have you guys ever heard how some foundations, they are claiming to be like like your skin but better. That's basically what this mascara is. It's like your lashes but better. It really just enhances your natural lashes without making them look like too over the top and too dramatic. So when I'm doing like a full face of makeup, I'll normally put on like 2 or 3 coats of mascara because I don't wear false lashes. But for this, I'm just gonna do 1 layer of this mascara on my top lashes, and I'll show you like a before and after in just a second. Okay, so you guys should be able to tell a difference between mascara versus no mascara. This mascara over here, to me, it just made my natural lashes look a little bit longer and a little more black, but they still look like my lashes. And then this next step is optional, but I like to also put a little bit of mascara on my outer lower lashes, even for a minimal makeup look. Because like I was saying earlier, people are just going to be drawn to the eye, so I just want to make it just a little bit more dramatic, but still minimal on the eye area. So I'm just going to put a little bit of mascara right on the outer parts of the lower lashes. Okay, and all we have left are lips. So of course for your lips, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of different finishes, a lot of different colors that you can use. I personally think a lip gloss is a really good complement for a minimal makeup look, and I think a nude color is also a really good complement. So I'm going to be finishing everything off with the Fenty Gloss Bomb Cream, and this is in the shade Fenty Glow. This color complements every skin tone. It looks really, really pretty on everybody. It's a really nice like nude pink lip color. So I'm going to finish everything off with this, and you can also pair this with a lip liner if you want to, but I feel like it looks really nice on its own, especially for minimal makeup looks. Okay guys, and here is our finished minimal makeup look for today. So I hope that you like it, and I hope that you found the video helpful. If you did, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel before you head out, and I will see y'all back here for my next one. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.